Let's talk about finger detangling. I have decided that finger detangling is one of the single most important things you can do if length retention is your goal. And I have just done a no comb challenge, and I've done a review about my results where I didn't use combs for a whole 3-month period, and my length, check and retention, etc. I'll put a link to that video. But finger detangling is one of those things where we all dread it. We don't want to do it, but we know it's beneficial. And we don't like it because it's time consuming. Some people say they don't know how to do it, and they just don't have the time. And I understand, if you don't have the time, you don't have the time. Use combs, etc. And even if you use combs, however, you still want to finger detangle your hair to some extent. It should be the first step of your detangling process. So this video is going to be me demonstrating how I finger detangle, or how you can finger detangle if you choose. I'm going to share some tricks and tips on how you can start finger detangling your hair a little bit more effectively. Finger detangling is one of those things where you don't want the hair to be dry, but you don't want it to be wet. So you want it to be in the middle, just to give the hair a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of slip, but not too wet that it's so susceptible to damage and breakage, and not too dry that it's susceptible to breakage and damage and snapping, So you don't want the two extremes, wetness and dryness. You want it to be in the middle. To detangle my hair, I like to start off with apple cider vinegar. So I've mixed some apple cider vinegar and a bit of oil and water. And obviously I'm using organic apple cider vinegar, and it's with the mother. And the reason I'm using apple cider vinegar, guys, and I haven't seen this anywhere else, maybe there's videos out there about it, but the reason I'm using apple cider is because apple cider vinegar actually helps close your cuticle. And if your cuticle is open like this, your hair is more prone to tangling and making friends with the other hairs. So my reasoning around using apple cider vinegar is to try and help close that cuticle and smooth the hair out so that it glides against each other a little bit better. So if your hair is particularly tangled or matted, you might want to go in and apply a very hydrating, a very slippery conditioner. You can even do a DIY, like a slippery elm DIY that I've done before. Put it in there and steam your hair, because steaming will help to loosen gunk and dirt and the knots. So if matting is an issue here, you want to steam your hair before you start any of this. My hair is not matted per se, it's tangled but not matted, so I'm not going to be steaming my hair in this video. Let me know if you're interested to see the process that I would do if my hair was matted. So the first thing we want to do is spritz the apple cider vinegar and water and oil concoction. Firstly, because we want the apple cider vinegar to start working on those strands, closing the cuticle. But second of all, we want to start to lubricate and hydrate the hair so that it's flexible and manageable. If your hair is loose, you can just go ahead and choose sections or pick sections where you detangle your hair section by section. But it's really important to work in sections or in parts so that you don't get overwhelmed, and if you are interrupted or anything like that, you can duck off and sort of come back and pick up where you started or where you left off, rather than either starting all over again or being a bit mistaken about which hair is detangled and which part is not, etc. Like, sections are a dream, just work in sections, okay? And you want to start separating those hairs, and by separating that hair, you are sort of feeling for any knots, tangles, single strand knots, etc. But then in doing that, you can also feel when the shed hairs start to come off. And when you feel that the hair is sort of creating a knot, you can start to pull gently on your hair from the ends, and you will start to release this the shed hair. Releasing the shed hairs is very important, because once you start adding more product and liquid to the hair, it starts to shrink, and as it shrinks, it knots even further. So if there's shed hair, a lot of it in the hair, you can actually encounter quite a bit of knots and tangles, and that can be a nightmare to detangle. So pulling the shed hairs is a step to not miss when it comes to finger detangling. So once you're done sort of pulling the shed hairs out, a lot of the times your hair is maybe coming from a twist out or whatever other style, so you can gently now start to dismantle or start to remove that curl, starting from the ends again. And I like to do this really gently, working at my ends and working my way up the shaft of the hair. And as I do that, you can start to feel exactly what areas need more work and what areas are pretty much already detangled. Another reason for starting at the ends is because as we work the hair, the tangles rather, from the base of the hair, you want to have that space at the ends of the hair to be able to bring up the tangle and release it. If the tangles or the hair at the ends is not well detangled, or you haven't really freed the ends from knots and the curl, sometimes the knots will get stuck there at the end and you can encounter breakage. So make sure you free your ends before you bring the tangles and the shed hairs from the base up. So what you want to start doing now is separating the hair and once again feeling for knots and tangles. Separating the hair is one of those things where you just want to ease your way through it. There is no rush. You cannot rush this process. Just gently sort of pull the hair apart and loosen the curl once again. Now, if you encounter particularly stubborn knots or, like webbing, if you know what I mean, like it looks like a web sometimes, these tangles, you want to just see where the source or the center of that knot is coming from. And the trick here is to not just yank that section out. You want to hold the piece of hair taut and you want to start pulling the hairs out of that knot, because usually it's a shed hair that sort of wrapped itself around the rest of the hairs. So you want to isolate the individual hairs, and in turn you will isolate the shed hair like I'm showing you here. So because this is a detangling process, everything we're doing is really to feel for knots, release tangles, and release shed hair, because that's exactly what detangling is. So you can do that throughout the twist and throughout the shaft of the hair until you feel like the hair is well detangled. If the base of the hair is matted or feeling like there's webbing happening there or tangles, go ahead and spritz more product, because that will help loosen those tangles a little bit and start to tease the hair or the section a little bit. Once you've done that, then you can go and start separating the hair and once again running your thumb and your fingers through the hair. Feel free to use all your fingers like a comb, so you can use like a combing motion to sort of work through the hair, the section of the hair, to make sure you've gotten rid of all knots and tangles. So once you're done with this twist, you want to go ahead to the next one and repeat this process again. It does take some getting used to, this whole finger detangling business, guys. Be patient with yourself. Make sure you're improving each time, but don't beat yourself up if you haven't got the hang of it yet. A lot of us need to actually learn and keep practicing and doing it right for us to get it. And for us to really do it well in the end. It's a learning process and you want to just ease your way through it and enjoy it and make sure you're doing it properly. So that's pretty much it, guys, for finger detangling. I hope you've learned one or two things. I hope this video has helped you feel a little bit more confident about finger detangling your hair. Like I said, it does require a bit of work, a bit of patience, a little bit of skill, but with time it does get better. So be patient with yourself and do leave a comment below. What are your thoughts about finger detangling? Do you finger detangle? Is it something you're going to adopt in your regimen? Do you feel like it's too hard and too time consuming, which I totally understand. But yeah, leave a comment below. Until next time, it's Pamara Naturals. Bye.